Space Nine, a Star Trek series that's beloved by many, but not beloved by me. And then we'll get into the history of that in just a second. But first of all, let's take a moment to introduce ourselves. So, Rob, you want to go ahead first?
Yeah, I'm Rob. I've known Nick. We've met through our wives, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And when we met each other, we decided we liked Star Trek. Mm-hmm. He was always a Next Generation guy, which I love Next Generation, don't get me wrong. But I found out he didn't like Deep Space Nine all that much, and I was deeply offended.
Deeply offended.
Underrated show, so we decided to start watching it, and then it turned into this.
Yeah. Yeah, and can we just talk about how awkward it is, the fact that the only reason we know each other is because our wives met each other through the internet as well.
Yeah, they all met for the internet, a babies thing, actually.
Babies thing, yeah.
So they're all cranking out kids in September.
Yeah.
And so they called themselves like the September Moms. And then they met each other. They were fake friends for a while. I made fun of my wife for her creepy friends on the internet.
Same.
And then it turned into us being creepy friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember the first time Leslie's like, "Hey, why don't you come to this event with, the other husbands are coming," and I definitely did not want to come.
Neither did I. Not at all.
Yeah, I was dreading that.
I thought for sure I was getting murdered.
But it turned out all right.
It turned out all right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyways, as Rob said, we met through that, and he mentioned I'm more of a Next Generation guy, and that is true. Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on in there.
There's a lot of things going on. A lot of sanitizing is going to be necessary in that one.
Who has that job?
Yeah.
We talked about the guy cleaning the toilets. Yeah. Who has that job?
I would not want that job. You think that's a computer button, though?
I'm thinking the whole thing, when everything evaporates, it evaporates that, too.
Yeah, but, like, human stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Hopefully it just kind of...
Why would it?
Dissolves that.
What? Okay. I don't know if you know how the human body works. But if I were going to go into one of those rooms, I'm not digital. I'm real.
Well, the stuff...
This is going into a dark place.
Yeah. So the stuff outside of the body just gets dissolved and goes into thin air or some kind of...
Okay, here's another thing.
Good Lord.
No, I'm sorry. You've brought this up, so now I need to go into this. You're in a hollow suite, which means everything around you is just lights, essentially. So you're having relations with lights.
You really like light.
I mean, it's just weird. So then if...
It's that LED light, man. It gets me going.
Could you imagine, though, if someone walks in... Like, let's say you can walk in with the ability to just see that nothing else is in there, right?
Yeah.
And you just see this person, go into town.
It's like VR. The guy's got wrapped around. He's humping the air.
I swear I'm a reverend, folks. But these are things that you have to wonder about.
Yeah.
I swear.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
That's lovely.
Anyways, I would not want that.
One of the things that early in the episode, at 5 minutes and 6 seconds.
Oh,
I know.
Very specific.
Like that?
Yeah.
I cracked up when Odo was talking to Quark, and he's talking about his lack of understanding for the need for coupling. And... which we know later on, not an issue at all.
Yeah.
He understands it.
Yeah.
But his breakdown of it made me laugh. So it's all made of compromises. You want to watch a sports tournament, she wants to listen to music. So you compromise, you listen to music. You like Earth Jazz, she likes Klingon Opera. So you compromise, you listen out to Klingon Opera. You go into a day hoping to watch a nice football game, and all of a sudden you're listening to Klingon Opera.
Yeah.
It cracked me up so much because there's a lot of truth in that.
It's a lot of truth.
Yeah. Hopefully my wife's not listening.
I can pretty much guarantee she won't be listening.
She'll be making fun of it, make it through 5 minutes and go, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Or saying, I hate you.
Even this podcast is a way of compromise, right? You go nerd out in the garage, and we'll just do our own thing, compromise.
Exactly. You go ahead and ride your bikes.
Yeah.
Exercise.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you liked from last episode, which I don't know if you remember from last week, is Odo's quote about laws changing depending on who is writing the laws.
Oh my gosh, that was the one. Justice is justice, right? Laws change depending on who's in charge. But justice is always justice. And is that so? Is that true? Is that relevant to today?
I mean, yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
History is written by the victors.
Yeah.
That whole thing. So it had some good quotes in it. It had some good ideas.
I can't believe I forgot that quote. That was the one thing in the episode that really stuck with me, actually.
And that was at 12:06.
12:06. Wow. You went and rewatched the episode. Its groove. The series is trying to find its groove. And this is an episode where it kind of slows down.
Yeah, it slows the pacing down, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
As a kid, I wanted a little more action, but I get it.
Yeah.
As an adult, I appreciate the more mature approach.
And how can we not love an episode about a virus breaking out where people have to be quarantined?
Oh, we were watching this thing cracking.
Oh my gosh! And like, what was the comment?
I wrote it down. I wrote it down somewhere. Where it says this quarantine is driving people crazy.
It has everyone on edge. Yeah,
everyone on edge. Perfect.
Yeah, because Quark was keeping his business open, and he goes, "I'm an essential business.
Yeah, I'm essential.
I'm an essential worker."
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
We were both staring at each other. This is hilarious.
Funny. Oh, like it. This is where you can understand where those QAnon and like all those conspiracy theorists come from, because they're like, Star Trek knew about this all along.
DS9 was way ahead of the curve.
They were planning for this.
There's virtual school beforehand, and now it's the virus.
It totally, like, you hear that kind of stuff, and you go, oh. And it's funny how their culture reacts versus our own, right?
Right. Well, they're evolved. They do what they're supposed to do.
For the most part, there is that captain.
Except for Quark.
Well,
because he's a modern human.
The captain is the modern human, right? The captain who just wants to get off the ship.
Oh, from
that's what I'm talking
alien,
about.
Yeah.
But Quark as well, right? So the alien wants to get off the Oh, I kept calling him a captive, didn't I?
So you say captain, I think, even though he's a commander of Cisco.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm talking about the alien who wants to get off the ship because he's got his
cargo.
The episode starts off with him wanting to get off the ship, right? Going after O'Brien, which I thought originally this was going to be an O'Brien episode. It really wasn't.
It started off where it looked like that way. But going back to that, so the station had issues.
Yes.
At the beginning.
Let's talk about that, because this was my biggest complaint the last couple episodes, right?
You were on top of that, but right off the bat, they're like airlocks aren't opening.
First 10 minutes of the episode, everything's just going to crap.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's clean, but shit doesn't work.
Yeah, it looks good on the surface, but behind the doors, it's falling
Behind
apart.
the doors that don't open.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, there was all the things, and they go with the best Star Trek babble you could go with. Have you tried to reroute the power converters?
Power couplings or something.
Power adapters, they called it in this one. But it can be couplers.
Yep.
It could be, a series of other things. But it's like they always reroute. Have you tried rerouting?
Well, there's probably like 100 ways to reroute crap.
There's a lot of things going on. A lot of sanitizing is going to be necessary in that one.
Who has that job?
Yeah.
We talked about the guy cleaning the toilets.
Yeah.
Who has that job?
Who has that job? I would not want that job. You think that's a computer button, though?
I'm thinking the whole thing, when everything evaporates, it evaporates that, too.
Yeah, but like human stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Hopefully it just kind of...
Why would it?
Dissolves that.
What? Okay. I don't know if you know how the human body works, but if I were go into one of those rooms, I'm not digital. I'm real.
Well, the stuff...
This is going into a dark place.
Yeah. So the stuff outside of the body just gets dissolved and goes into thin air or some kind of...
Okay, here's another thing.
Good Lord.
No, I'm sorry. You've brought this up, so now I need to go into this. You're in a hollow suite, which means everything around you is just lights, essentially. So you're having relations with lights.
You really like light.
I mean, it's just weird. So then if...
It's that LED light, man. It gets me going.
Could you imagine, though, someone walks in... Like, let's say you can walk in with the ability to just see that nothing else is in there, right?
Yeah.
And you just see this person, like, go into town.
It's like VR. The guy's got wrapped around. He's humping the air.
I swear I'm a reverend, folks. But these are things that you have to wonder about.
Yeah.
I swear.
One thing about the Vash actress, I don't remember her name off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. But she could actually chew up some scenes. Like, when she's in a scene, she owns that scene.
She was a very good actress, which I think so far in the series that I've noted that we've kind of struggled with some of the acting.
Oh, yeah.
But she was a good one to bring in. It's just, so it's an interesting dynamic to bring in a character from another series like that, right? Because two characters, because on one hand, it's a good way to tell the viewers, the loyal viewers, hey, look, we got your back.
Right.
But it's another way to tell the newer viewers, hey, look, you've missed a lot. And so it can go one of two ways. This can either be endearing or it can turn people away from the series, I think.
That's fair, yeah.
Luckily, they did a decent enough job.
One thing about the Vash actress. I don't remember her name off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. But she could actually chew up some scenes. Like when she's in a scene, she owns that scene.
She was a very good actress, which I think so far in the series that I've noted that we've kind of struggled with some of the acting.
Oh yeah,
but she was a good one to bring in. It's just so it's an interesting dynamic to bring in a character from another series like that, right? Because two characters. Because on one hand, it's a good way to tell the viewers, the loyal viewers, hey, look, we got your back.
Right.
But it's another way to tell the newer viewers, hey, look, you've missed a lot. And so it can go one of two ways. This can either be endearing or it can turn people away from the series, I think.
That's fair, yeah.
Luckily, they did a decent enough job explaining things. You know, like they dropped certain comments in there about Sherwood Forest and her relationship with Picard and
Picard, as they call him.
Picard, yeah. They dropped some hints and everything, which helps. I just wonder if you were a new person to Deep Space Nine, if you appreciated this episode as much as
honestly
someone who
back
watched.
then. I don't think very many people watched this show that wasn't already watching The Next Generation.
Yeah, that's true because it was so different, right? And it probably scared people away.
And a lot of people back then, especially, it wasn't cool to like Star Trek.
No,
not at all.
Is it cool today?
I think it's cooler. I think it's more acceptable.
I think cool is the bad word. I think acceptable is a better word.
It's more acceptable, but you know, even back then, Star Wars was still a little bit taboo.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't necessarily in the pulp. Well, I mean, it was in the pop culture, but it wasn't an all-encompassing thing. Like,
well, I read comic books and I caught grief for that, and now
look
at Marvel.
Yeah, Marvel's huge, and everyone's reading comics, and comic book stores are exploding.
I think on the level of coolness, you go as high as Marvel, Star Wars, and then the very low end, it's still Star Trek.
Yeah, absolutely, bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. So, anyways, getting back to this Q thing, he does annoy me after a while. Yeah, you brought up a good point the other day. Rob works in waste management, and one of his routes is by my house. And he stopped by the one day, and we were talking about doing this podcast. And I said to him, well, I don't know why we're doing this. No one's going to listen to it. And he goes, you know what? Someday our kids might want to hear our voices again and listen to it. And it's like he wanted to make me cry at that moment because like that's a really good point. Like that would be cool to have a video from my dad, like when he was younger. You know, like I have the home videos and stuff like that, but like him in his own element without kids around.
I think about, I don't really remember my dad's grandfather died way before I was born.
Yeah.
And then my mom's dad, I should say, I don't really remember much.
Yeah.
I was thinking about my friend Kurt, who had died when I was younger, and how cool would it be to have, something like a video or a recording, or hell, I even take a picture at this point.
Yeah.
Next to each other, and then this would be cool for the kids to say, hey, my dad's a huge dork, but when they're 30, going, I miss that dude.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm around when they're 30. But
that's the goal. That's the dream.
But you never know that. I hope they have something like this. It'd be cool.
Yeah.
So amuse ourselves, maybe get a listener, and the kids when we're older.
And who knows? Maybe other people will want to join us on the show sometimes. And
absolutely.
And it'll go beyond this too. Like we're starting with Star Trek, but who knows where we'll go? We might.
Hey man, there's a new Batman movie coming out.
There is a new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson.
Huge Batman fans.
So am I. Yeah, so we we get along over that too. So we got a lot in common with the nerd stuff. So it's kind of works in our favor. So, but. So that is a little bit about us, and our goal is to make this about a 45-minute podcast, give or take. We don't want to make it too long. There's some of them I listen to; they're way too long.
Yeah,
like Fake Doctors, Real Friends. I was listening to that the other day. It was an hour and a half long. They didn't really talk about the episode until like the last 20 minutes, and they rushed through it.
I'll give them credit though; they're damn amusing.
They are amusing, and the theme song is fantastic.
They're good.
Yeah.
I do wish they would have talked about the show more.
Yeah.
But they do it well. They do what they do well.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, it's nice to see that friendship.
Well, it's cool because it's a real friendship. Like you always watch these shows and you go like going back to the Friends earlier, like Joey and Chandler. Like they're not real friends in real life. Matt LeBlanc and what's his name? I can't even.
Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry. Yeah, yeah. I doubt they're actual friends in real life.
Yeah,
but like you can tell the friendship is real between Donald Faison and.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
It's pretty cool.
Got the hetero love.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. The guy love.
Yeah, the guy love.
Guy love.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I won't sing.
Yeah, that's
That's terrible.
This is not a singing show. This is not a singing show. So, anyways, goal is to keep it a tight 45 minutes. Of course, today is our first one, so
who knows what's going to turn into
kind of have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, should we dive into the episode then?
Yeah.
I said this to you before, like the problem with Enterprise compared to other series is they try to focus too much on one character, right?
Right.
But then I'm thinking about this pilot for Deep Space Nine, and they focus a lot on Sisko. Obviously, I mean, he's the captain.
Yeah.
But he is heavily focused on. So what makes that so different? Why does Sisko hit so much harder?
Because the story, I think, in the long run. I think it's the maturity of... Like, I watched that episode, and when they... So... If you don't remember Emissary, you should probably read a recap. Sisko lost his wife in the Battle of Wolf 359, which is where Picard was turned into a Kuwtc.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, he views it as Picard killed his wife. He comes to Deep Space Nine, broken man, and eventually, through the episode, finds out he goes into the wormhole where the prophets live. Right. And the prophets he's trying to explain how we're that evolved person that our past experience prepares us for the future experience, and how we grow and we move and we evolve essentially. And then the Apollo Wraith were like, but you live in this moment where it's showing him constantly with his wife Jennifer on the Saratoga.
Yeah,
couldn't think of the name. As she's dead.
Dead. Yeah, at that point.
And man, I watched that. We've all had our fair share of loss in our lives, but that's been me. Absolutely, it has been me.
Yeah.
And that's why I watched that and just went, holy gut check.
Yeah.
And after that, I was like, I have existed and I do exist in certain keys. Maybe not all the time.
Right.
But there was times where I existed in an event that happened in the past where that made me, that was my life. That event was my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like, dang.
Yeah.
So that kind of hit me. And then that's where I realized this pilot was something special.
Right.
I changed my mind. It's not one, it's one or two.
Right. The line they kept saying was, "You exist here," and it's fascinating because Sisko thought it was just a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Between him and this alien entity, right? Yep. Like they're just misunderstanding.
Yeah, I think I had to focus a lot on Sisko because I had to build his world.
Yeah.
And I mean, as you watch the series, you'll see definitely the other characters get involved.
Yeah.
The B characters get involved.
Right.
So I think it had to almost focus on him, and it still established his job there with the Bajorans, and established that Odo doesn't know where he came from. It established that Kira's a bit of a hothead. Yeah. It established Gul Dukat, who runs the entire series.
O'Brien, who's kind of sad about leaving his life and going to something new.
And it mentioned his wife wasn't overly thrilled.
Yeah.
And it kind of touched on Jadzia a little bit with her history with being his former friend in a past life. Yeah. So it touched on things, but it definitely did focus on Sisko.
You just brought up a good point about the not being overly thrilled, because now when I'm thinking about the pilot, every other Star Trek pilot, or maybe most shows you watched, everyone's happy to be where they're at, excited. Yeah, it's established, right? Like, Picard assumes command of the Enterprise. He's happy. The crew's all happy. They're on the flagship. Yeah. And here you have Sisko going to some crappy space station with his kid who doesn't want to go there. Yeah. They got to sleep on the ground. They're not happy. Kira's not happy. That he's coming on board.
The Federation's there.
Yeah, exactly. None of them are really super excited about it, minus Bashir, the doctor.
They established he was annoying in this episode.
Yeah, he was annoying.
The first season or two, he's not great.
Him and, he was probably the only character who was really happy to be there, right?
Yeah, in the long run, if you want the frontier medicine, as he called it. Yeah. Right here on the frontier, and whatever accent that he does.
Yeah, frontier.
Yeah.
No,
not the accent I just tried to do.
Yeah. Jake growing up is the whole point of this episode, right? Yeah. Well, up until this point, he absolutely idolized his father. He wanted nothing to do but spend his time with his father. And here's his father saying, I booked this 3-day thing where we're going to go out and do all this fun stuff together, and he's like, nah,
Yeah.
I'd rather hang around the docks.
It's great that you mentioned that early because I kind of have a note about that. It's like I can totally relate.
Yeah.
Because for 10, 11, 12 years, my daughter was a daddy's girl.
Yeah.
And now that she's 13, nearly 14,
Yeah.
she doesn't talk to me.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
It does break my heart because I'm used to being able that she'd see me smile, run to me, and that's like, boomer.
Yeah. Okay, boomer, go away.
And I know, I know it's the age, but at the same point, I can relate to Cisco in that aspect where he's like, oh,
And it's hard not to take it personally. Well, I mean, what else we got to say?
I think that's about it.
This might be our shortest
it
episode.
might be the shortest episode.
I think that's okay, though.
I
Not
agree.
all of them have to be 55.
That 55 might be too long.
55 might be too long.
Yeah.
42.
42.
43.
40s.
We should
The
shoot.
40s.
We should shoot from mid 40s.
Yeah.
40 for 40.
Yep.
And we still need a name.
Oh, yeah, I forgot all about that.
We didn't even talk about that.
We're not running with the Nick and Rob?
We could just do the. It's Rob and Nick.
Is it?
I put you first. Yeah, not the happy ending. Not. This is an episode which is interesting because you don't root for your main character, right? You're not rooting for Kira really, but at the same time, you understand exactly why she's doing what she's doing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I would probably do the same thing in her position, right?
Right,
The
yeah.
needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yeah. Star Trek 2.
Star Trek 2.
Yep.
So here's Kira making a very difficult decision.
Check out our new twat.
We'll twat it.
What it did was,
Your opinion.
in
is
my
wrong.
opinion, the beginning was, very inquisitive, right? Figuring out who this is, what we're doing.
Right.
And then there was like, okay, cool, Quark has his line, and then it's
It
we're gonna
changed
get-
pace a little bit.
It
Right.
did. You're
Yeah.
right, actually, because then it started lighting up because that's when Kira came around to him.
Right. That's when they exposed his genetic reconstructive face surgery.
That's a really good point. So it's a shift, and it helps create a tonal shift in the
Kardashian
episode.
getting plastic surgery like a Kardashian.
Oh, look at that.
Foreshadowing.
was ahead of its time.
It was ahead of its
It
time.
was ahead of its time. Oh, the last thing that I wanted to add in this episode is it basically acknowledges that Kira murdered innocent people.
Oh, yeah.
That was something that I was struggling with. Like,
Yeah.
so she has her own justifications for what she did.
Oh, she said from the get-go she has her own ghost.
Which I think this is the big fight between these two. I think that's where the duet is, right?
Right.
She's finger pointing at him for doing the exact same things that she
Right.
did, right?
That were they're the oppressor and she was the liberator, but still she's
From her perspective.
Her perspective, and that's
From
one of
a
the reasons.
point of view.
And that's one of the things
The
that this
Jedi
show
are
does
evil.
well is she has to recognize that she did bad stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's where I think the duet is, and I like that juxtaposition. There we go.
Yeah. Nice work.
Thank you. Words are hard for me,
Yeah.
you guys.
Might that drink I mixed up for you.
I really did love that play with Kira, but they kind of glossed over a little bit, which is okay. That's fine.
Unfortunately, it's only an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, they're building this character too, right? I mean, you're loving this character. Kira, like, she's a good character in this show. Yet you're finding out she did a lot of really crappy things.
Oh yeah.
So then the question becomes, well, shoot, how is it really as easy as you think to judge a person, right? Like, how can you judge a person?
Well, she's
you
a
can't judge him because he's a Cardassian. You can't judge her because she's a Bajoran. You got to look at their actions.
Yeah. Well, you think about it. She was a terrorist. What does it come if I say terrorist to you guys? What does it come to mind?
Right? You think of the Middle East.
I think of 9/11 right off the bat.
Right? So from a certain point of view, they were...
I'm not saying
So-
they're right.
I mean,
yeah.
murder is still murder, right?
Murder is
So-
still murder.
So if
Yeah.
you say, okay, so let's take it back to Aladdin, right? Aladdin is a thief, right? But what's he doing? He's stealing to survive,
Yeah.
Right.
right? So it's a survival action.
Yeah.
So he's still a thief,
Yeah.
Right.
but he's not doing it with malicious intent.
And Kira was a
It's a
terrorist for
level of
survival.
philosophy.
Right, so it's-
Unitarianism, I think that's what they call it. Like the deed isn't inherently evil unless it's associated with an evil act.
Right.
Right.
Right. And
So you
so
have
what the act, yeah. So like stealing bread to survive isn't evil. Stealing bread because you don't want Joe to eat is
Right.
evil.
Right. Or
You know?
Right.
Or the shop owner, did something to you, or it's
Yeah.
a vendetta or something. It's so, what the actions that Kira took were necessary in her mind. Actually not in her mind. They were just necessary.
necessary.
Yeah, they're
to
necessary.
her survival.
Yeah.
Right. To people's
not
survival.
that's not a disputable
The
fact.
goods
If she
of the
didn't-
many
If she didn't do
outweigh.
what she did, her and a lot of other
Might have
of
died.
her people
Yeah.
would be dead. Would have
Yeah.
been dead. So it was a necessary act.
Yeah.
The act is still murder, but it was a necessary act.
Right.
Well, it's like war. War's murder. In some aspects, it's
War never
but war-
changes.
yeah. It's just different. It's just different, but there's
War. Huh. Good God, y'all. What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Sorry.
Say it again.
now we're all hippies.
So, so here's the thing, though. So Kira murders to stop the murderers, right? What happens? So what happens if one side just completely decides to stop the violence? Does it limit the amount of dead people? So, for instance, if the Bajorans just said, "We'll do whatever you want, Cardassians," would the Cardassians still have been so vile in contempt to them, or would more people have survived? But the question is, also, is survival enough in that case?
Well, in this episode, they said that the Bajorans were peaceful people until the Cardassians came in and started to
'cause
really
they were
abuse them and
religious.
everything.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So in that aspect, I think that Cardassians kind of got off on the abuse they gave to them, and that's what really spurred like the fighter cells. And
It's
that's
It's like a little kid frying an ant on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
thing. Like,
Mhm.
I can.
Mhm.
Anything helps. Everything helps. And you guys have been a delight. I'm really glad I decided to join you on this podcast.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you taking your time for us, the fans. So
And